Well, let's start with Ezra. We're gonna start with Ezra, and Zach is gonna lead us off on Ezra. Zach, this is the one movie you watched. Tell us all about Ezra and what you thought.
So Ezra is not the direct-to-Netflix apology by Ezra Miller. I made that joke earlier, but Terry wasn't recording, so I wanted to just make sure that people could laugh at it. It is a movie that is written and directed by Tony Goldwyn, aka Fitz on Scandal, and the antagonist in Ghost. And I really didn't know about this movie until I saw his appearance on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, which is funny because Jimmy Kimmel is mentioned copiously in this movie. Is that a word? Like, he is kind of all over this movie. And I feel like Jimmy Kimmel actually has more impact on the movie than the titular character of Ezra. But anyway, Ezra is a movie about a stand-up comedian whose name is Max, and he's played by Bobby Cannavale. And his son is Ezra. And Ezra is a autistic boy who's probably like 10 or 11 years old. Both Max and his ex-wife, Jenna, played by Rose Byrne, are caring and devoted parents, but they have different approaches to dealing with Ezra's autism, which somewhat explains at the beginning of the movie why they're divorced. Max is now living with his father. And cue the BDN music. It is none other than Robert De Niro. Now,
Yay!
Pinot winner, Robert De Niro.
Pinot, excuse me, I forgot. I was supposed to say that. I messed up my line. Now, I feel like the instruction for this role, played by Robert De Niro, living with his crazed son, I feel like the instruction that Tony G must have given on set was channel your performance from Silver Linings Playbook, because it's basically like the exact same role and exact same performance. It's like a manic depressive son with the elderly father. The only difference this time is that Bob plays not a impassioned Philadelphia Eagles fan, but a former cook who was disgraced because he got into a fist fight with someone who didn't think his steak was rare enough. That's the movie I wanted to see right there. Bob as a cook. Has anything like that been made, Todd? I mean, do we have De Niro's track record as a cook? I don't think it's happened before. Let's make it happen.
That's a good point.
De Niro in this movie is he had like some Jerry Stiller vibes, which I thought was sort of unusual. Like the dynamic of him and his son is like Jerry Stiller and George Costanza when George moves into his parents' house in season 5 of Seinfeld. Anyway, that was one of the better parts of the movie. The rest of the movie is kind of this labored exercise in how Max, the Bobby Cannavale character, doesn't feel like they should be sending their son to a quote-unquote special school or putting him on medication. Quite possibly because Max himself might be undiagnosed bipolar. Although I thought the movie was going to like go into that, how maybe Max has like psychological issues, but I don't think it really does. I think the movie takes totally this very warm view toward Max, because what he ultimately ends up doing is kidnapping his son, driving him cross country so he can go on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, along the way teaching life lessons to his son, who's apparently in desperate need of it. I never got on board with that storyline, in part because I thought the motivations for that character to kidnap his son were so ridiculous. And I thought not only could I not justify it or rationalize it, but I also thought they would have been caught a lot sooner. There's I guess, an interesting sequence in the movie involving Rainn Wilson as this former friend of Max's who now lives on a farm in Michigan. I really wanted Jimmy Fallon to come out of the street somewhere and hit an innocent man in Dearborn, Michigan, but that didn't happen. I was bored during this movie. I thought it was an interesting exercise in how, like, in the first 10 minutes, how parents could approach an autistic kid in a different way. But really, I was kind of sad and disappointed to see that the movie really just had the autistic kid as a vehicle for the rest of the story, which is kind of a lame combination of like Peanut Butter Falcon meets Rain Man with a little bit of Come On thrown in there. This movie, the young actor is presumably autistic, which is cool. But on the other hand, I don't think this movie normalizes autism. I think it kind of makes a huge spectacle out of it. And I never got on board with it. I mean, there's just some ridiculous fallacies in this movie. Fallacies like Jesse Pinkman. I didn't like it. I give it a very generous 2 stars.
So 2 stars from Zach. Todd, where are you at with Ezra?
I mean, I'm in agreement with most of what he said. I'll never understand why Bobby Cannavale isn't a bigger star. Like, I mean, when I first watched The Station Agent, I knew that he was great, and like there isn't really any Hollywood actor who sounds like him or has his magnetism and demeanor. Like he's just a really interesting actor. He has like really great TV roles and stuff, but like he rarely gets the chance to actually carry a movie, and he kind of does here. I think he's kind of great in this movie, but I think he deserved a better movie. Honestly, Rose Byrne is always a delight to see. Like here, she isn't playing what she normally does, but she can kind of do anything. Now, in the De Niro sense, like this isn't all that dramatically different from like Being Flynn or Everybody's Fine. Like he's done movies like this before. They all of his like family centered movies all kind of have the same tone and impact. And I mean, they don't necessarily need to have De Niro in them, but he kind of helps them get sold. Like he's an executive producer on this, so he obviously believes in the movie. This is a lot more like acidic sense of humor than those movies do, though. Like I mean, his typical family movies are all really safe. Like this one, like there's some things that I like. There's like mean spiritedness. It just it helps the movie, but it also like hurts like it accomplished what it's trying to accomplish. And Zach said it's like Rain Man. There's some of that. There's some Kramer versus Kramer. It's essentially a guy who is forced to care for someone who can't care for themselves, and while going through some self-discovery thing, and it's not that good. It's like a comedy drama version of that. And I think the emotional scenes are kind of corny. Like it does a lot to try to pull at the heartstrings, but it doesn't really ever get there. The first half is better than the second half because it was more or less artificial, I guess. I mean, it is so like sincere though. Like I mean, it really, really wants to be good. And it felt like a Sundance movie from like the mid 2000s. It's like a bigger budget Sundance movie. It's like nothing special, kind of forgettable. My favorite part though was the young girl who plays Vera Farmiga's daughter, Matilda Lawler. I really thought it was Elsie Fisher, but then I realized that she was in her like mid 20s or something. It couldn't have been her. But I'd never seen the girl before. She's really good in her couple scenes. But it's still, I mean, it's a 2-star movie. I have it 73 on the BDN between The Wizard of Lies and Righteous Kill. So I mean, esteemed company there. But yeah, I mean, it's a fine movie. It's nothing. I mean, I'm gonna forget about it for sure.
Yeah, we're thrice declined on this. I'm a little higher on it than you guys. I'm at 2.5 stars, but I think there are parts of this movie that work really well. Like there are pockets that are just like, oh, that now if the whole movie were just this, like if the whole movie were just hanging out on Rainn Wilson's at Rainn Wilson's camp with the nun in training, like that was cool stuff. If the whole movie were on the farm with Vera Farmiga's family, that would be cool. But it's not, and it keeps like Bobby Cannavale, like you said, Todd, gives an amazing performance here. But it's like the story keeps on sabotaging his performance because it doesn't work all the time, and it's taking it in ways it shouldn't, and it kind of ruins what he's got going on. This movie is billed as not what it actually is. Like it's billed to be kind of this more like almost like a comedy, family uplifting thing. It's not. This is a dreary drama for most of it about an insult comic that hates himself. It feels very different than what the trailer bills it as. I will say, never before has a director been acting in a movie, and every time he shows up, he feels like the director just kind of walked on screen. That's what Tony Goldwyn feels like in his role. He feels like every time he pops on, it's like, well, it feels like Tony Goldwyn is just like walking onto screen to direct from in front of the camera now.
Maybe the actor didn't show up that day.
Yeah, that must have been it. But yeah, it's a 2.5-star movie. But like I said, there are parts that I love, but then it just like kills itself again. It just doesn't work. And then you'll get to the next pocket like, this is good, but why are you stuck in this trope of needing to prove this or prove that or show this, and those are the moments that it doesn't work. But going back to how Zach kind of started this whole thing out, the Charlie Duke ticket taker movie maker of this movie is definitely Jimmy Kimmel. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, so, I think the best part of the movie is De Niro. I thought the Farmiga scenes were ridiculous, but the De Niro character. Okay, tell me there's not a movie here. De Niro is this disgraced cook and his son is hanging out with his friend, and his friend steals his pan, and he's
Yeah, he
sent
just
on
wants
a
his pan back.
lifelong mission to return the pan. That's a great movie. Bob is fantastic in this movie, and I love that, you know, going between the premieres and screenings for this shit, and then going to the picket line to protest our former president's trial. I love Bob's presence just overall in the world lately, and he's the best part of this movie. He wins MVP for Ezra. I really love it. Yeah, he's awesome, and his cooking is really good too.
The worst part of his performance, though, has there ever been an image of De Niro on a movie poster that has looked less like De Niro?
Yeah.
That's the worst part of his performance. Like, that's fine,
Looks
but
like,
no, the actual
Harry S.
movie
Truman.
poster. Like, go to IMDb, look at the
that
movie
one,
poster.
too.
Yeah, it is no image. Like, the worst part of his performance is his image on the movie poster on IMDb. That's the worst part of his performance.
It's interesting that you say that De Niro was a producer. Was Jimmy Kimmel a producer? I mean, he is everywhere in this movie. There is not an 8-minute stretch when the name Jimmy Kimmel isn't mentioned in this movie, and it's strange. And he's the movie maker. He's the Matt Damon Award winner. He's probably the biggest stick man, for being honest. But because they say he has kids. But yeah, no, we're all thrice declined, and Adam might like it, but I'm guessing it's probably a thumbs down from him too.